everyone, and welcome. We're the Owatonna School Board. It's Monday, June 20th. It's 5:30. I'm going to call this meeting to order. And Eric, our attendance tonight?
Perfect.
We have good attendance. All right, let's all please rise and join in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before we approve the agenda for tonight, there is one more item that we are going to add. So on the back side of your agenda, in section 8, it does require board action, and this will become item 8.m, and this is going to be the Ohs Band extended trip. So if you would please add that as an addition to your agenda, and then gifts to the district will be item N in that same section. Since I was the one that made that amendment to the agenda, I'll make the motion that we approve the agenda then with that amendment.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor with an aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. I'm going to turn things over to Mr. Elstad for our mission moment.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Tonight, as I have done periodically throughout the last probably 18 months, one of the groups that I don't ever want to leave out is the incredible leadership team that we have here with an ISD 761. Particularly tonight, I'd like to call out our building leaders. Our building leaders here have persevered through some of the most difficult times in public education. And they continue, though, to put students first in every single decision. And what I appreciate about the team that I work with here is that whenever there was a challenge, we'd come together, we would come up with what we thought were good solutions, but it was truly the thinking and sometimes out-of-box thinking that our building leaders brought to the table, and I can't tell them and you how much I appreciate them. We have a few here tonight, recognizing that some have summer activities, some may be traveling, and getting away, which is what they need to do too to recharge their batteries. But I'd like to just, if I may, ask Corey Kath, the Owatonna High School principal, to stand, Mary Hawkins, principal at Lincoln, and Libby Zeman, principal at Washington Elementary, and really lift them up because they are truly living out our mission to inspire excellence for every learner every day. Thank you.
Mr. Elstad, thank you. We're going to move on to item 5, which is public forum. Sarah, do we have any cards for public forum? We do not, so we will continue moving on. Item 6 tonight does not require any action by the board. First would be board forum. I'm going to start down here with you, Jolene. Do you have anything for board forum tonight? Deborah.
I enjoyed the marching band contest on Saturday. It was a perfect day for it, and the kids were just awesome.
Nice. Nothing.
I have nothing tonight either.
I have nothing for tonight. Nothing for me.
I would like to make note to mark on your calendars July 14th at 6 p.m. We are having a District 1 virtual meeting so that you can meet other school board members within our district and be able to connect and see kind of what's going on with them. So we are trying to do it about 3 times a year, and so this is the first one.
Thank you.
That's all.
Haley, we didn't have a chance to welcome you last week. Welcome. We're glad you're here. Glad you're a part of all this. We'll get to the two of you here in just a second. Next up on the agenda would be the policy revisions, and this is the first reading. This was a part of your board packet. It did not appear as though there was a substantive amount of changes that would be made to the policies, but we do have members of the policy committee here. Anybody have any questions regarding those changes? Hearing none, we'll continue on. Haley and Jace, again, the two of you were chosen from a really, I think, terrific pool of candidates to serve as student representatives on the school board. We're very glad that you're here. We think you're going to do a great job with us. There is a very brief statement that I'll read that is essentially affirming your commitment, and the two of you have a response to that, but it goes something like this. It's an honor that you were selected to be seated as student representatives on the school board, and as you recite your commitment, you assume a tremendous responsibility to represent the student perspective in all of our board meetings and work sessions. As student representatives to the board, you serve one of the education's key advocates on behalf of students to advance the vision for our schools. Furthermore, you will assist the school board and superintendent to lead the district forward toward fulfilling the vision we have created, fostering excellence for every student in the areas of academic skills, knowledge, citizenship, and personal development. We're very glad you're here. Jace, you have the sheet right there. Would you read that affirmative statement for me?
I hereby publicly affirm my commitment to the Owatonna School Board as a non-voting student representative.
And Haley?
I hereby publicly affirm my commitment to the Owatonna School Board as a non-voting student representative.
Terrific. Thank you both. Very glad that both of you are here and a part of this. Thank you. I'm going to turn it to Mr. Elstad for the administrative reports. Probably a couple of things you'd like to update us on.
I would. Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Tonight I have a few updates. Obviously, you'll see some of the building reports, and as the summer goes on, remember, building reports are a little bit less than what you typically would see. And of course, we ramp things up again in August, and I don't know that our administrators want to hear the word August right now, but it will come soon enough. But we've been doing actually a lot of planning for next school year already, and looking forward to that opportunity. My legislative update will remain brief. I believe now that we have probably sealed the coffin on chance of a special session. Unfortunately, just to give you some of the statistics, we missed out on $2.5 million in special education cross-subsidy funding that would have helped our general fund. We also missed out on the $1 million mechatronics lab grant that was actually approved in both houses, but couldn't make it into the final bill. It doesn't mean that we certainly won't advocate for that in the next session, but at this point it appears that both of those items, so in total, about $3.5 million in funding were missed for our district, and that would have made a huge difference financially for us, and probably would have delayed what will be an operating levy ask of our community. And perhaps next year when legislators come back to the table, maybe they'll make it better for us and try to get some of these things done that will help us in the long run as a district, and certainly to help our taxpayers. I think we've met since graduation, so I won't talk more about that. Our summer programs are in full swing because we are kind of a 365-day operation here. We have summer school-age care that's taking place. We have credit recovery for the high school and ALC taking place. We're about ready to, or just about ready to kick off migrant ed programming. We have extended school year coming for special education. And then we start our summer school program for our K-8 students in the first week of July. So a little bit of a reprieve here for some of our programs. Our credit recovery program goes right away after the school year ends, so that if students were close, that they have an opportunity to meet the graduation requirements so that they indeed can graduate in June, or that they achieve their diploma. But our summer school programs for kindergarten through 8th grade typically don't start until July, and they'll run right up through just about the first week of August. So lots of exciting things. And finally, I will conclude by saying at the last meeting I mentioned to you that I was honored to be elected to the National Superintendent Governing Board. Unfortunately, that has a little bit of a conflict with the schedule with school board meetings, because the evening of July 11th, which is the only meeting in July, I will be on Capitol Hill advocating for the students and teachers and educators of Minnesota. So I will not be attending, but Michelle Krell will be sitting in my stead at that meeting for you. And so hopefully these won't collide again. I'll be more, but obviously I found out I was elected, and then this moved right into, so the 11th and 12th and 13th of July, I will be in Washington, D.C. And I should note that all of the costs associated with that are from the National Association, pays for all of that. Owatonna doesn't have anything invested other than a little bit of my time. So, thank you.
Mr. Elstad, thanks. We're going to move on tonight to item 7, which is the consent agenda. Quick reminder, we are approving the minutes from May 23rd and June 13th. Disbursement and personnel reports. Anybody have any reason for us to pull an item out? Hearing none, would one of you be kind enough to introduce the motion?
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Eric, this would be a roll call vote.
Correct. Deborah,
Aye.
Tim,
Aye.
Nikki,
Aye.
Jelaine,
Aye.
Mark,
Aye.
Lori,
Aye.
and I myself is an aye. 7-0 pass.
Motion carries. Thank you very much. Moving on tonight, board action requested in section 8. The first is letter A, which is the superintendent's evaluation summary. I want to thank all of you that had participated in providing your input with regard to his evaluation. As I went through it, as I've shared with several of you independently, the amount of overlap, the amount of similarity with regard to your responses, where there was a lot to respond to, and interestingly enough, where there wasn't much to say, none of you were, terribly verbose about it. It was just it was a very, very interesting summary, series of summaries to read through. I've captured it with regard to the summary that was made a part of your board packet, and I have a copy here if you'd like that as well. Anybody have any questions with regard to the summary?
Were we perfect attendance for,
Pretty close.
Pretty close.
What was the question, Eric?
I just questioned if everyone was able to get theirs in.
Oh,
Pretty close. So with that, would one of you please introduce the motion for the evaluation summary?
I move that the board approve the evaluation summary for Superintendent Elstead.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further conversation? Hearing none. All in favor with an aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Item B would be the 2022-2023 preliminary budget. Again, we had a very thorough presentation on this last week when Amanda was here. In her absence, anybody have any questions? Mr. Elstead?
Yes, she is absent. She had a family commitment tonight that kept her away. But she was, I agree, there was a very thorough report at our work session last week about the preliminary budget. She did indicate this afternoon to me that she hadn't received any inquiry up to the meeting. So I would stand for any questions in regard to the preliminary budget.
I just have one. I apologize for not being here last time. With the activity fee increase of $20, did we also raise the max family?
I don't believe it was raised at all. I think the max family stayed at the same level,
Okay.
but it was the individual
Yep.
prices that went up.
Well, as I recall, the discussion, and maybe I'm wrong, I understood it to be the max family being 3 times the individual rate, and so I would assume that it increased. Do you know what I mean? That it's always a multiple?
Yes, there wasn't an additional increase to the family max. It would have taken the new number that you're being considered to approve tonight within the preliminary budget, and just adding that to it to make the family
Okay.
max
So-
reflective of that.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Sound right, Mr. Kath? Thanks.
Maybe just one other comment, Mark. We had a pretty, I think, thorough discussion at our finance committee about these other increases, and it's unfortunate. But nonetheless, it's been several years since we increased, particularly the meal rates. And it still keeps us well within the boundaries of sort of the average for our constituents for Big Nine. So I'm certainly supportive. Wish it could be otherwise, but there we are.
I believe, if I may, the state average for a meal price for students is $2.75, and our with the increase would be at $2.60. So we're still below the state average.
Good questions. Anything else? One of you be kind enough to introduce the motion.
I move that the board approve the 2022-2023 preliminary budget as presented, including the increases in activity fees and meal prices.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor with an aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Item C tonight would be the ratification of the 2021 through the 2023 tentative agreement with Owatonna Nutrition Services staff. Mr. Elstad is here and can answer questions, and Chris Pika here is here as well, and I'm sure would be happy to answer any questions we might have. Hearing none.
I move the board approve the 2021-2023 agreement with the nutrition services staff and authorize the chair and clerk to execute the agreement on behalf of the school board.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Eric, it's a roll call vote.
Correct. Deborah?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
Nikki?
Aye.
Jelaine?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Lori?
Aye.
I myself is an aye, 7-0 pass.
Motion carries. Thank you. Item D tonight would be C, membership. I'm going to turn things over to Mr. Elstad for a quick explanation.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. We have had a membership with Schools for Equity and Education for a number of years. We're one of 54 school districts across the state that belong, that do not generate significant categorical aid. And we have what's considered low property wealth in our school district, so our taxpayers actually pay more to get the same service as other districts who have a bigger tax base. And so what Schools for Equity and Education does for us is they continue to advocate for equalization of aid so that we can sort of flatten the playing field for school aid or resources that we might need. They've done a number of things. They were instrumental a few years back in seeking some relief for our agricultural landowners. And so again, this is a very good advocacy group and is well worth our membership to continue to have those advocates with the Minnesota legislature.
Any questions? Lori, do you have that
Sure.
agenda?
I move that the board approve the membership for the 2022-2023 school year to Schools for Equity in Education, known as C.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor with an aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Item E tonight would be the 2022-2023 school board meeting schedule. You probably noticed that the January meeting typically would be the very first Monday, and it is actually going to be on Monday the 9th, so that would be the second Monday. You noticed also that there were some changes to the March schedule, so we're avoiding the spring break time period, and the proposed date does have a couple of items on the agenda that could be conflicts for a couple of the board members, but all in, everything else seems to land pretty much normally. Any questions from anybody on the schedule? Do you have the motion?
Yep. I move that the school board approve the 2022-2023 school board meeting schedule as presented.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor with an aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Item F tonight would be the Minnesota School Board Association membership. One more time, I'm turning things over to Mr. Elstad, but it appears as though the increase in costs for MSBA was less than a $50 increase. So
Yes.
it seemed as though it stayed within the inflationary pressures that we're facing. Any other thoughts or comments?
No, I mean, with having Nikki represent us on the
Right.
state board, the Minnesota School Board Association is one of the strongest associations across the state and certainly is well worth the membership.
I would like to add that every school board in the state of Minnesota is a member, at least they are for this past.
Mhm.
Nice.
So if
Yeah.
that's any help in making our decision.
Yeah. Well, and they provide a great deal of resources, not the least of which is our policy
Policies, right.
work. So there's no question in my mind.
Oh, they're a huge resource for us. Would one of you be kind enough to introduce the motion?
Go ahead.
I move that the board approve membership to the Minnesota School Boards Association for the 2022-2023 school year.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor with an aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item G would be the Minnesota State High School League membership. I'll turn things over to Mr. Elstad.
You're noticing a trend here. We're getting close to the end of a fiscal year, which means some of our memberships are running out. The Minnesota State High School League offers up an annual membership, and what you're being asked to consider tonight is authorizing membership again so that our students can participate in all of the Minnesota State High School League sanctioned activities that are offered.
Did everyone have a chance to watch the video that was part of your board packet? Doesn't sound like there are many questions. Nikki, do you have that one queued up?
Yep. I move that the board approve the 2022-2023 resolution for membership in the Minnesota State High School League.
Second.
It's a motion and a second. Eric, it's a roll call.
Correct. Deborah?
Aye.
Tim,
Aye.
Nikki,
Aye.
Jolene,
Aye.
Lori,
Aye.
Mark.
Aye.
I myself is an aye, 7-0 pass.
Motion carries. Item H tonight is the 6th grade inclusion to the Kids First programs. We had Mr. Ochterkirk brief us on that last week. Seemed as though the board was generally in favor. There were some good questions that were asked. Any further questions tonight relative to this? Hearing none. Jolene, I think we're back down to you again.
I move that the board approve the proposal to allow sixth graders to participate in Kids First Boys and Girls Cross Country, Boys and Girls Golf, and Boys and Girls Tennis.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor with an aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item I tonight would be the resolution approving continued use of software and the payment of the fee. And Mr. Elstad has a good explanation for us on this.
Yeah, so this is just so that you're aware, to alleviate the potential conflict of interest, Danielle Tice, who is also our Director of Special Services, does have a company that she works for and has founded that works to provide what's called a performance tracking system. It's a software. The thing that Ms. Tice allows us to do, though, is there's no charges for any of her time or anything there. What you're being asked to consider tonight is just to resolve that we can continue to use the software, because there is a software license fee that we really can't get around. And so that's what you're being asked to consider. And this has been something, since she has been employed in the district, that you have been asked to consider approving before as well.
You want to speak to it?
We utilize it in many of our buildings, and it's definitely needed, especially when we talk about our discovery programs. So
Yeah.
it's been a very, very valuable resource
Yep.
for our teachers and students. We get it
Very,
I
very
was
good.
gonna say the rate is,
And I believe that
Really low.
when Lincoln Elementary did their presentation, they talked about how they're using PTS, Performance Tracking System, along with Wilson talked about it, and now other buildings are starting to utilize. It's been very helpful for us to identify and really provide immediate feedback for students and for staff.
Deborah, do you have this one queued up?
Yes. I move that the board approve the resolution approving continued use of the software and its payment fee.
Second.
Motion and a second. Eric, this is a roll call.
Yep. Deborah,
Aye.
Tim,
Aye.
Nikki,
Aye.
Jolene,
Aye.
Lori,
aye.
Mark,
Aye.
and I myself is an aye, 7-0 pass.
Motion carries. Thank you. Item J would be the 2023-2024 school calendar. One more time, Mr. Elstad.
So it's been the practice of ISD 761 to make sure that we have a couple years of school calendars out there. I appreciate the work that Michelle Krell has done with the calendar committee to really formulate and think about how we might begin our school year and some of the different pieces during the year to make sure that quarters are balanced for instructional purposes and so on and so forth. And so a couple things of note on the 23-24 calendar. You will note that we're going back to a post-Labor Day start for our students. The 23-24 start of the school year will be kind of a magical time, because we'll no longer be attending this building with our grade 9 through 12 students. Our students will be attending the new high school. Mr. Kath has been working with Michelle along with his staff to think through how we might best incorporate individual grade levels, or at least, having one grade level come in the morning, because it's a brand new building, wayfinding for everyone. It isn't just freshmen anymore. It will be grades 9 through 12 to try to find their way around the new building. And so again, the post-Labor Day start also allows us, even though we are still ahead of schedule in the project, we still have time to go. It does allow us some extra time at the end of the summer if we need to move things in late, but I have been assured that that will not happen. So again, that's probably the biggest note that you'll see within this calendar. We still end our year on Wednesday, June 5th. Just about gave everybody a heart attack when I said July 5th. Wednesday, June 5th. But we still also, and the other thing that we brought back was President's Day as a day for staff and students to not have contact on that day. It's a non-contract day.
Questions?
I do. So I noticed in comparison to the 22-23 and the 23-24 calendar that we have shortened up the first quarter by 4 days. Is that, do you see that as an issue?
You know, I think when staff was deliberating, Michelle could speak to this as well, but I think when staff is deliberating, they do their very level best, but they also recognize because we're coming into a new building with, because quarter classes really only impact our high school students, maybe a few middle school. So I think the high school staff had some say, but recognizing it's going to be a different start within there, they did feel like that was still appropriate, that they could complete the materials within that quarter time. And Michelle, do you have any other thoughts to share on that?
Well, I can share. We do try to get the semesters more evened out. We're putting more time into the second semester because of because of continued snow days, or we get into testing season, and that takes a considerable amount of time. So we try to balance semesters, but give the second semester a little heavier. Quarters don't matter quite as much. There's some kids that have quarter, some students in high school that have quarter classes. Most of them have semester.
And refresh me, are we counting by days or by hours?
So we are counted by hours. Unfortunately, we're still using Carnegie units, which has been now almost 200 years old in the practice. For a high school student, they need to complete a minimum of 1,020 hours. Now, in the past, we've been concerned about that, particularly in the winter with snow days. Well, now because we have distance learning kind of in play, we're not as worried about it anymore, so we can adjust. We have some more freedom now to adjust calendars to accomplish all of the hours that are needed. And again, we typically supersede the 1,020 by well over 100 hours typically. Yeah. Yep.
The one thing I don't see, normally I can always look on here to see the circle for the 2-hour early release for Homecoming Friday, for the parade and all
Yeah,
that.
so
I don't see that on here.
I don't believe that homecoming is on our calendar yet. I know it'll be determined. It's in October, I think.
It's listed but no date.
Right. Because some of our activity, I mean, we try to be proactive in getting calendars up, but there are some things that we still need to finalize because I don't believe that they have the entire football season schedule set for the fall of 23. So that will be coming. I would assume, because typically it's around that last Friday in September, first Friday in October. I'm assuming it will be somewhere in one of those 2 weeks.
Any other questions? Would you have this one?
Yep. I move that the board approve the 2023-2024 school calendar as presented.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor with an aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item K tonight would be the resolution establishing dates for filing affidavits of candidacy. All of us are very well aware of this. Dates are August 2nd through August 14th. 16th. And everything else with regard to that was well spelled out in your board packet. Any questions? Sarah's probably the best one to direct questions to on this. Hearing none. Do you have this?
Yep.
Peter?
I move that the board approve the resolution establishing dates for filing affidavits for candidacy.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Eric, if you would, please.
Yep. Deb?
Oh, I didn't hear you.
Deborah?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
Nikki?
Aye.
Jelaine?
Aye.
Lori?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
And I myself is an aye. 7-0 pass.
Motion carries. Item L tonight would be the policy revisions. This is the second reading. We've had a chance to read through those. Those had a bit more substantive changes, but this is a good opportunity one last time to ask any questions if you might have them. Hearing none. Tim, do you have this one?
I move that the board approve the revisions to the attached policies as presented.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor with an aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Item M, which is this recent addition, which would be the Ohs Band Trip. We're lucky. We have Mr. Kath here tonight in case you have any questions, but in order to kick it off, I'll turn things over to Mr. Elstead for a quick explanation.
So the marching band is going to Orlando, Florida. They're actually leaving on the 26th of June and will be returning on July 3rd. I know that they'll be performing a number of times on their trip. I believe you have the request in front of you. They'll be utilizing the bus company for transport to and from the airport. They will be flying through Sun Country Airlines. And then it's indicating who's going to be chaperoning, as well as the funding. The funding for this trip is there's no school district funding. This is just a per person cost that the marching band boosters, I think they did some fundraising along the way to help students with that. Plus there are scholarships available for students that might need that. So I think that is all I have, unless there's any other detail, Mr. Kath, that you would have to add to this?
Well, I did find out they're marching at Magic Kingdom, so they're very excited about that.
Yeah.
Just one quick question. I saw the bus company noted as well. They're just transporting to the airport. Is that the plan?
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else?
Just curious, again, this looks like it's happening in not too far. My assumption is we knew about this trip, just wondering why it wasn't brought to our attention sooner.
Well, there was an oversight.
Mr. Ginther had planned to submit it in April, and it did not submit it at that time.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, just curious.
Any other questions? Do you have the?
Yep. I move that the board approve the no, I'm sorry, wrong one.
To make it up.
I have to make it up. Oh my goodness. I move that the board approve the extended trip request for the OHS marching band as presented.
Second.
A motion and a second. All in favor with an aye? Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. Item N tonight would be gifts to the district. Mr. Elstead, some nice gifts in there.
Yeah, again, some nice gifts from some different groups, both the track for some of the pole vaulting equipment and things that are needed, as well as a gift from Struce to our Lincoln Fire Department, and $500 from the Cultural Diversity Network of Steele County for the multicultural event that was held right at the tail end of the school year for our students.
Any questions? Hearing none. Jolene, if you would.
I move that the board approve the resolution for acceptance of gifts as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Last time, Eric.
Yep. Deborah?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
Nikki?
Aye.
Jolene?
Aye.
Lori?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
And I myself's an aye. 7-0 pass.
Motion carries. Good meeting tonight, folks. I will make the motion that we adjourn the meeting.
Second.
A motion and a second. All in favor with an aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Thank you. Good meeting.